Republican Congressman Sean Duffy of Wisconsin. He is a Donald Trump supporter. And sir, I want to ask you about something we're hearing from a number of Trump surrogates, including high-level ones like former Mayor Rudy Giuliani. They have been trafficking in conspiracy theories about Hillary Clinton's health recently. Trump himself hasn't released very much information on his health. There's been really one 4-paragraph note that was released in 2015 from his doctor, a gastroenterologist. You've told me that you think Trump should release his tax return. Should he also release more in the way of medical records?
Well, listen, I think that's less of an issue for both of the candidates. I mean, I think what they're pointing to, though, is you see Mrs. Clinton with coughing fits on stage. You see her kind of stumbling on and off stage, where Mr. Trump hasn't had those kind of issues. And I think that's what has brought this concern forward. But I would just tell you this, Brianna, I think both of these issues for either of their health is a distraction. I mean, from the conservative side of the aisle, I look at Hillary Clinton and the dishonesty with the American people, not leveling with us about the emails and the Clinton Foundation and Benghazi. Those issues, I think, resonate more with the American people than talking about health. And so if I was Hillary Clinton, like she did last night, I think it was at Jimmy Kimmel, take my pulse, I'm alive. I mean, you can laugh that off. But these other issues are far more serious that go to our national security and the integrity and honesty that someone has who could serve in the most powerful position in the world. I
said this earlier, and someone wrote to me, and I had offended them, where I said that they are comparatively old, these candidates. And I just meant compared to past candidates. Yeah. I'm not saying, 70's the new 60. Okay, let's say that. But, I think maybe people should be concerned. And you have, for instance, Donald Trump's doctor writing, if elected, Mr. Trump, I can state unequivocally, will be the healthiest individual ever elected to the presidency. That sounds so not like a doctor. Is that really supposed to give us confidence?
Well, listen, I think this goes to when you see both of these candidates on the stump, you don't see any issue with Donald Trump. I mean, he's vigorous and he's boisterous and he's got a spring in his step. And there's been a little less of that with regard to Hillary Clinton. And I think that's what these folks are pointing to. But listen, our country faces significant and serious issues.
Why are you saying that, though? Can I ask you? Only because I cover her and I see her. So, I mean, I see her a lot. And you and other Trump surrogates, even, the ones who aren't saying Google this, Google that, like Rudy Giuliani, are just sort of saying it's this sort of, I'm hearing it repeatedly, not just from you, which makes me think it's something else going on here. This sort of, she's not quite as boisterous or doesn't have a spring in her step. I mean, she is doing fundraiser after fundraiser after fundraiser. Her schedule has been, over the course of this has been nuts. And arguably for the first several months of Iowa and onward, she was campaigning a heck of a lot more than Donald Trump.
But Brianna, I mean, come on. You brought this issue up. I didn't bring this to your attention, hitting her health. You brought that to me. And if you want to go there, I mean, you can Google and watch all kinds of video where she's having coughing attacks. Donald Trump doesn't have that. There's been a few video where she stumbles off the stage and she has to be grabbed and put back up. So those are issues that we've seen on YouTube. But again, I don't think those are relevant to the American voter.
You said there have been a few instances of this?
Yeah, have you seen the coughing attacks? You haven't seen those?
Have you seen a couple?
I've seen the video where she stumbled. Okay. Have you seen those with Donald Trump? I mean, if you look at Mr. Trump,
who doesn't occasionally cough?
Well, a cough is one thing, but a coughing fit is something else, where it's a cough on end. You have nothing on the Trump side that would lead you to believe that he's nothing but healthy. There's been things with the stumbles.
Well, there's nothing that would lead you to believe he is healthy, Congressman. His letter from his doctor is borderline ridiculous when you talk to other doctors who look at it.
Brianna, we use common sense and we'll look at both of them on the stump. And listen, if Donald Trump had health issues on the stump, I'm sure it would be played over and over again. That doesn't exist.
So it sounds like you're trafficking in these conspiracy theories as well. You're saying because she was coughing, she's not as healthy as Donald Trump.
A coughing fit, Brianna, is different than a cough. Stumbling off the stage is different than a guy that can stand there and deliver an engaged speech. But to be clear, you brought it up. I think the issues in this campaign go to the economy, go to opportunity, go to a good education, go to a secure border, go to addressing ISIS, all issues that my constituents care about.
I have a question.
They care less about the health of these.
So you're looking at your diagnosis of...
I'm not peddling. I'm not. No,
yes, you are.
I'm not peddling the theory of health.
Yes, you are.
You brought it up.
I'm allowed to ask about it.
I didn't want to talk about this.
I'm allowed to ask about it.
You're driving this. You're driving the topic, not me.
You're peddling it. You're right. I did bring it up, and you are peddling it.
That's right.
But here's what that is right. Okay, so let me ask you this. You're looking at certain things where she's had a stumble or she's had a coughing fit, but you've also, I hope, have you read her medical note from her doctor that was far more detailed than Donald Trump's, where it describes the past issues that she's had and her current fitness to do this? I mean, isn't that
Brianna,
more important than something like a coughing fit once or twice?
I love your show and I love coming on this show, but I was asked at one point about David Duke's endorsement of Donald Trump. I've never been asked about the Orlando shooter's endorsement of Hillary Clinton. We've talked about Manafort on this show and ties to Russia. We've talked about Roger Ailes and potential sex scandals at Fox.
We have covered those issues extensively.
No, hold on a second. Let me make my point. But why aren't we talking then about Uma and her ties to the Muslim and the Muslim Brotherhood? Why aren't we talking about the fact that she was an editor
for
a
doesn't have ties to the Muslim Brotherhood.
Newspaper?
It is not
but
the
now
newspaper.
You're peddling in. You're peddling in these dishonesties. You're peddling information that I would say is not true, because the information is out there that she does have these ties.
No. And when you look at this newsletter, I don't know what else to tell you. I'm just telling you how it is. And when you look at this newsletter, the way it's been characterized in the right-wing press is not accurate. So I just have to put that out there, because that's certainly what the fact is, Congressman.
And I would agree with you, Brianna, that I think there are more important issues to talk about. You and I can agree on that point. But if you want to drive it, I do think there's videos out there that could raise concern. But I did. But you brought up the topic. But I do think that we should stay on this show and other shows, and surrogates should stick on the issues that are going to grow the economy and keep Americans safe. And I think we'd be all better debating those things that we know about, where their policy prescriptions are, as opposed to things that we don't know about, and frankly, we will never know about. If Hillary Clinton is ill or Donald Trump is ill, they're not going to tell us. And they'll pick doctors that won't share that with us. So we will never, ever know. And that's why I think we should leave it alone and talk about who has the best vision for America, who's going to raise the people up, who's going to keep us safe. That's the debate that the American voter and the Wisconsin voter cares about in this election.
Okay, let me ask you this, though, because I've been hearing some of this stuff that we've talked about coming and that you, Congressman, are even lending credence to. And I wonder if it has something to do with the state of Donald Trump currently in this race. It is sort of perplexing to many people when they look at Donald Trump tonight in Austin, Texas, a solidly red state, in Jackson, Mississippi tomorrow. What is he doing? And no offense to the great states of Texas and Mississippi, but these are not decisive in November. Why is he there?
Well, I think he's reaching out to everyone in America. I would just note that Hillary Clinton is in a decisively blue state of California. These folks, they go and they raise money in areas in which they can find donors who buy into their campaigns. And that's why Hillary is in California and why Trump is in Texas. But if you look at the places that he's going, he's got a pretty rigorous schedule. He's been in Wisconsin, he's been in Ohio and Pennsylvania and Virginia. Those are all contested states that he's playing in and playing hard. And frankly, he's doing a lot of rallies, far more than Hillary Clinton. And I think that's what's key here. And by the way, I think it's important as we engage in this debate that you're able to take tough questions from the media. What I love about Donald Trump is he'll take your questions and MSNBC's questions and Fox's questions. He does it on a pretty frequent basis. Now, you're going to tell me that it hasn't been so much recently, and I'll cede that point. But when Hillary Clinton for 262 days doesn't take tough questions from the media because she has one lie after another lie and can't keep them straight and can't take the pressure from the press, if you think that's going to change when she's the president, that she's all of a sudden going to be an opening flower to take your question and be open, I
don't think it's going to be a great improvement with either candidate. We've been waiting to have him on CNN. It's been June, I think, since we had him. So there's an open invite there for sure. But you say he's talking to everyone.
That's a good thing.
But wouldn't you rather have him in someplace like Iowa, where he's only down a couple of points, but obviously that's so important. Or, I mean, even, well, he's down in quite a few places. Colorado,
Brianna,
Virginia.
Where has Hillary been? I mean, we haven't seen Hillary doing big
overall,
speeches.
She's been
we haven't seen her down in
overall, I would say, and when you look at the last month or so, she's been doing a lot more in the way of states that are.
Brianna, why is I mean, decisive. You got to be fair in the analysis and say if Donald Trump is in Texas and Hillary is in California,
okay,
who
but
cares?
that's fair. Look,
she's in a blue state, he's in a red state,
but
right?
he's in Texas, events in Mississippi,
fundraising
he's been in
Texas.
Connecticut.
Yeah. So, here's what I think is happening, a little insight. If he's fundraising in some of these communities, I'm sure he probably does an event there after the fundraiser.
That's
and he's talking to the people, which is a good thing. And so instead of just taking the money and running, he's actually going, I'm going to engage the people in this community. And you know what? No matter where you're at, your news coverage covers all 50 states, and if you cover his speech, no matter where it's at, he's hitting millions of people through your broadcast, and that's a really good thing because he has to get his message out.
We'll both see from other surrogates too. So, do you think is that really the calculus here then? That it doesn't matter if he doesn't go in glad hand and do these events in Pennsylvania, in Ohio, and that if he's in Texas talking and it's on television, that gets him as much mileage as those other kinds of trips take, because it goes counter to what a lot of people think about campaigning.
So in the sense that if Hillary Clinton is in California, would it hurt her to do a rally in California? I don't think it hurts her. Just the same if Donald Trump is in Texas and he raises money there, he does a rally there as well. Listen, he's a little down in the polls. We'll both see that point. So I think it's important for him to get out there and continue to talk about the issues that he wants to bring forward as the next president of the United States. He wants to drive the issues about what's wrong with Hillary Clinton's honesty and integrity with regard to these emails and Benghazi and snuffing out ISIS and securing the border and an economic plan that looks to more government, more programs, more government spending as opposed to the free enterprise system. That debate is a good debate for Donald Trump, especially where he's at in the polls, to have right now, and he should do it every day. And I think he should be in Iowa, and he should be in Ohio and Pennsylvania, and he has been, and he was just in Virginia. You can't say he hasn't been to the swing states. He's been there and hitting them hard. So just that he steps away and goes somewhere else, that shouldn't be a point of attack. We should look at Hillary Clinton and go, do as many rallies as Donald Trump. Do as many interviews as Donald Trump. Do as many press conferences as Donald Trump, and be transparent with the American people. Be like Donald Trump in that regard, and I think what you'll see is the facade of the Clinton will crack.
All right. We will see Sean Duffy, Congressman. Thank you so much. We certainly appreciate you being with us.
Good to see you.
And we'll be back in a moment.
This is CNN Breaking News.
Our breaking news first on CNN. Cyber attackers believed to be working for Russian intelligence have carried out a series of infiltrations targeting reporters at the New York Times and other U.S. news organizations. U.S. officials say these attacks are being investigated by the FBI, and they're thought to be part of a broader series of hacks. Officials say the targeting of journalists can yield valuable intelligence on government sources, along with unpublished works containing sensitive information. And Donald Trump is stepping up his attacks on Hillary Clinton, calling for a special prosecutor to investigate the Clinton Foundation. At the same time, he's playing defense on his immigration policy, backing off his harshest rhetoric about mass deportations, and while Clinton is laughing off dubious claims by Trump supporters about her health, it's now Trump's medical history that's coming under close scrutiny, including a strange letter from his doctor. And a savage knife attack in rural Virginia. The suspect shouted, "God is great," in Arabic, and one victim was left with a slashed neck. Investigators are looking into a possible case of lone wolf terrorism. Is there an ISIS connection? I'll talk with Congressman Sean Duffy. He's a Donald Trump supporter, and our correspondents, analysts, and guests have full coverage of the day's top stories. We begin now with our breaking news that U.S. officials say hackers thought to be working for Russian intelligence have targeted reporters at the New York Times and other U.S. news organizations. CNN Justice correspondent Evan Perez was first with this story. Evan, tell us what you've been learning.
Brianna, U.S. investigators believe that this is part of a broader Russian intelligence operation that already has infiltrated a number of targets. Now, U.S. officials believe that Russian spies are targeting New York Times reporters as well as reporters from several other outlets. Now, the FBI and private security investigators are working with the Times to try to figure out how the hackers got in. A spokeswoman for the New York Times declined to comment on any possible breach, but said that the company works with outside investigators and law enforcement to guard against hacks. U.S. intelligence officials believe that these intrusions are part of a series of hacks believed to be the work of Russian intelligence, and that includes the hacks of the Democratic National Committee, as well as other Democratic Party organizations, as well as think tanks here in Washington, Brianna.
And do you have authorities who are thinking that perhaps there's a specific motive behind this, that this could be connected to past suspected security breaches?
Well, U.S. intelligence officials tell me that the picture emerging from all of this recent activity by Russian spies is that they're going beyond the normal hacks against U.S. government systems. They're targeting think tanks and news organizations looking for contacts in the government, as well as communications and even stories that are in the works. All of this is valuable information for intelligence agencies, and they seem to particularly be interested in organizations with a window on the U.S. political system. Now, you'll remember that after the DNC hack, WikiLeaks released a trove of emails from the DNC days before the Democratic convention. Now, the Russian government has denied being involved in all of this, but the Clinton campaign claims that the breach is proof that Vladimir Putin wants to help Donald Trump to be elected, Brianna.
It is interesting that you point out that they're looking at institutions, or the hackers are specifically, that have some insight into the U.S. political system. What does that mean? We're still trying to figure it out.
Right, exactly.
Evan Perez, thank you so much. Well, the intrusions targeting journalists follow cyber attacks against other organizations. Let's turn now to Shimon Prokupez. And Shimon, tell us, how far could this Russian threat go? What are the top U.S. concerns here?
I mean, it could go anywhere, and U.S. officials really believe they could be in anything and they could be in everything. It's really hard to monitor some of this. It's really hard to stop a lot of this. So, U.S. officials, they work with sort of companies and trying to find out, if they've seen any suspicious activity, if there's been any breaches in their systems. We know the White House was breached. We know the State Department has breached, and we have reported that it was the Russians. So this could go anywhere. And certainly, Evan and I have talked to several U.S. officials in Washington, in New York, in other parts of the country. And, no one really has a good handle on this. The Russians could be in everything, some officials tell us. So they really don't know. It's a day-to-day sort of game. Some say it's like a chess game. And it's just basically trying to monitor as much as they can to sort of stop this and try and determine how much actually do the Russians know about what's going on in our government and in our institutions all across the country.
How will the U.S., do you think, respond to this? If they believe that Russian intelligence is believed to be behind the attack, you'd think there might be repercussions.
You would think, but, I mean, look, they did the White House, they did the State Department. We believe, we've been told, the U.S. government knows this. What's taking so long? And, Evan and I have questioned people about this, and all they're saying, there's sort of talks going on behind the scenes with, what to do with this. How do we stop this? But there's a lot of concern that in naming Russia, Russia could turn around and somehow embarrass us, or really, we could be at a major cyber war. And so, no one wants to escalate this. So they're trying to sort of talk about this behind the scenes, maybe negotiate something. But look, right now, no one thinks this is going to stop. And at what point is enough enough? And at what point will the U.S. government finally come out and say, hey, we know Russia's behind all of these attacks?
All right, Shimon Prokupez, thank you so much for that report. Turning now to the presidential race, Donald Trump is playing offense and defense at the same time. He is stepping up attacks on Hillary Clinton while his campaign struggles to redefine his harsh and harshly criticized rhetoric on immigration. CNN political reporter Sarah Murray is on the campaign trail. Sarah, what's the latest with this?
Brianna, as you pointed out, Donald Trump has really spent weeks on defense at this point, but now he is trying to turn that all around and focus the attention on Hillary Clinton. But despite his best efforts, he just can't seem to escape these questions about what exactly is going on with his immigration plan.
Donald Trump's looking to turn up the heat on Hillary Clinton.
After the FBI and Department of Justice whitewashed Hillary Clinton's email crimes, they certainly cannot be trusted to quickly or impartially investigate Hillary Clinton's new crimes, which happen all the time.
calling for a special prosecutor to investigate ties between the Clinton Foundation and the State Department, an unlikely outcome under the Obama administration.
The amounts involved, the favors done, and the significant number of times it was done require an expedited investigation by a special prosecutor immediately.
The GOP nominee on the attack, trying to put his own campaign struggles in the rear view. It's a strategy that's still not clearing up confusion over whether Trump is poised to shift on immigration.
What people don't know is that Obama got tremendous numbers of people out of the country. Bush, the same thing. Lots of people were brought out of the country with the existing laws. Well, I'm going to do the same thing, and I just said that. We want to do it in a very humane manner.
Trump now saying he's focusing on enforcing existing laws and deporting undocumented immigrants who've committed dangerous crimes.
We have a lot of bad people that have to get out of this country. We're going to get them out, and they're going to be out of this country so fast your head will spin.
Trump's moderate tone in interviews sharing little in common with his muscular take on the trail, aside from a similar rhetorical flair.
Don't worry, we're going to build the wall. That wall will go up so fast your head will spin.
The latest inklings Trump may be reevaluating his immigration stance, coming as he tries to shore up dismal support from Latinos and African Americans. But Trump's pitch that black communities can't get much worse.
What the hell do you have to lose? Give me a chance. I'll straighten it out.
Is still a bit rough around the edges.
I'll bring jobs back. We'll bring spirit back. We'll get rid of the crime. You'll be able to walk down the street without getting shot. Right now, you walk down the street, you get shot.
Now, the latest polls still have Donald Trump trailing in battleground states really across the country. And in an effort to turn that around, his campaign has essentially blown up his schedule for the week, which was largely driven by fundraising. Tonight, he's campaigning in Texas, for instance. But tomorrow, he's going to be returning to a pivotal battleground state. He'll be campaigning right here in Tampa, Florida. Brianna.
Sarah Murray for us in Florida. Thank you. And joining me now is Republican Congressman Sean Duffy of Wisconsin. He is a Donald Trump supporter. Thank you, Congressman, for being with us. We do appreciate your time. And
it's good to be with you, Brianna.
You heard that report there before Sarah, Evan Perez, talking about how investigators believe that Russian intelligence is behind this recent string of cyber attacks, most recently against the New York Times and other news agencies. Have you been briefed on any of these cyber attacks? Is there anything you can tell us?
So I haven't been briefed on these new revelations about what's happened at the New York Times, but this is nothing new. We know that not just Russia, but other non-friendlies to the United States have been hacking all kinds of institutions. OPM, the Office of Personnel Management in the Congress, that too has been hacked. A lot of members of Congress and employees of the Congress, they have that information as well. What's concerning me, though, is that we know our information is continually under siege from our enemies. It's so important from the New York Times or the DNC or the RNC to protect that information, which brings this story back to Hillary Clinton and the fact that she had top secret information on a non-secure server. I'm sure the New York Times servers were far more secure than the one that she had in her basement. So
do you know that
I look
for
at
a
this
fact?
And
do you know that
from
for a
what we've
fact?
heard from the FBI, well, listen, from the FBI, it was a non-secure server, absolutely. And what you'll see is there's different levels of security, which means there's different levels of layers that we protect information. And if you have top secret information, that's at a different level than members of Congress's information at OPM. And if you take that information out of the secure setting at state and you put it on a non-secure server, if they can access the DNC or they can access the New York Times, they can access a non-secure server, which is very troubling that they now have this top secret information that even members of Congress don't have access to.
Do you have information that we don't, that there was access to her server? Because we do not have that.
No.
Do you know that there?
No, but I.
You're making the point of her judgment on using the server. You're not saying that it was her server was hacked.
My point is, I highly suspect that it was hacked because they're going after all kinds of information. If they'll go after the New York Times for political information, why not go after the Secretary of State who has an open server where you can access all of this secure information? And also, she traveled overseas to places like Russia with this non-secure device that they could easily lift this information from. So do we have that information already that it was hacked? Not yet. But I feel pretty certain that these are professionals and they have that information.
I just wanted to make sure you weren't telling us there was something that we didn't know there. Okay, so you said
I'm not breaking a story for you.
It goes to Hillary Clinton's. Certainly, this raises questions about her, you're saying, but I wonder if it also raises questions about Donald Trump. You have been out there saying, look, Donald Trump needs to release his tax returns. There have been questions about Donald Trump and perhaps business interests with Russia. We do not know because he has not released his tax returns, but we've heard praise for Vladimir Putin. Does this further reinforce the need to release these tax returns so that we know exactly, very transparently, if Donald Trump has business interests or has had business interests in Russia, considering it is Russian intel that investigators think is behind this?
So I would also make the same point. You have no information that there's any tie between Trump's dealings and Russia, but
I'm saying, but we do not know. We do not know, right? I mean, he hasn't.
And so what I've said on your show before is,
Congressman, her server has been turned over to the FBI, okay? So there have been folks who have looked at it. Nobody, aside from Donald Trump or those very close to him, have seen his income tax returns. So I'm asking this question if it's important for us to be able to know for sure.
Yeah. I've said before on this show, I think transparency for both candidates is important. And so I do think he should turn over his tax information. I think that's important. As well as I thought it was important that Hillary Clinton turn over all of her emails, and she refuses to turn them over. We have to get them through FOIA requests and court orders to get this new 15,000 emails that have now come our way. We're able to see the connection between the Clinton Foundation
documents,
and the Clinton
some
State
of them
Department.
emails, some of them duplicates probably of what we've had. But your point is taken. There are some new emails in there. I just want to be clear. There's not 15,000 emails or new emails.
But my point to you, though, is I think that voters deserve all this information when they go to the ballot box in November. And they should see Donald Trump's tax information. They should see the connections between the Clinton Foundation and Russia and what favors might have been given to donors to the Clinton Foundation that she gave through her role in the State Department. Those are all very important things. Transparency is good in American politics.
Yeah, all questions that we do want answers to. Very important. All right, Congressman Duffy, stick around with me if you will. We have much more ahead to talk about. We'll be right back.